To witness De Bruyne play is to watch an artist at work, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary.
His brain is, I think, it's the best that I've seen.
His game reminds us that football, at its heart, is art, expressive, captivating.
Can you even explain how he thinks or what he sees or how he is as a player? Because I struggle at times because it's very difficult to understand engineers.
Me too.
Each pass, each cross, it defies the laws of physics. His shots have more curve than Kim Kardashian.
You could almost have a team of engineers out there for an hour looking at the angles that he's producing in a split second. He can find gaps and openings that just don't exist.
The Belgian is a maestro, and the pitch, it's his canvas. He doesn't just play football, he creates art. He sculpts chances, carves passes, and shapes the flow of the game. The architect of opportunities, the painter of pivotal moments. From being labeled a Premier League reject.
I came into City as a Chelsea reject. People wouldn't pay for me to watch me and all that stuff. That's what people really said.
To becoming the greatest midfielder the league has ever seen.
For me, he's been the best player in the Premier League for the last 4 or 5 years. That's where you'd put him. You'd put him up alongside any midfield player who's ever played.
This is the story of how Kevin De Bruyne broke the Premier League.
Kevin De Bruyne! One of Manchester City's biggest players with one of the biggest goals of the season.
Kevin is one of the best players I ever seen in my life. In terms of, he can make absolutely everything. Everything.
De Bruyne back post! It's a title winner! Absolutely extraordinary!
He's Mr. Kevin De Bruyne. So, man, what can I say?
Kevin De Bruyne had been the face of the Premier League for the better part of a decade. He had been the best player on the best team that England had ever seen. 2-time Premier League Player of the Year, 3-time Playmaker of the Season. He is one of the biggest reasons that Manchester City had been able to win so many Premier League titles in such a short span of time.
Yet another winner's medal.
But what if I told you the special one rejected this artist, saying that he has no idea how to play as an attacking midfielder?
He was not ready to have, let's say, a season at Chelsea where lots of good players were there in the same team.
Or maybe Mourinho didn't want a guy who looked like Ed Sheeran on his team. Not many people understand why Kevin De Bruyne played the way he did when he was a youngster, and how his early life influenced the way he played on the pitch. De Bruyne was dealing with rejection long before he even became a professional footballer. And no, I'm not talking about the time he was left home alone on Christmas. At 14, he moved away from his parents to join the Hank Training Center.
I moved when I was 14. That's the time you start meeting your friends outside a little bit and having some fun.
The Belgian club put him in with a foster family for a year while he completed his education and played in their academy. For De Bruyne, everything seemed fine.
I thought everything went alright. In the end of the year, I'm fine. People never had to go to school for problems. Discipline, I'm fine.
He packed his bags and says goodbye to his foster family as he returns home for summer break.
I say goodbye to the foster parents, not knowing what goes on.
But as soon as he gets home, he realizes things aren't right.
I come home and my parents were like sad, crying, and I'm like, what's wrong? The foster parents don't want you to come back anymore. I'm like, why? Because of who you are. I'm like, of what? Yeah, you're difficult to handle, you're very quiet. The kids who were there, it's very difficult to interact. They just find you difficult.
Hearing that at such a young age is heartbreaking.
As a 16-year-old, 15-year-old, you're like, yeah, it's not nice to hear.
Too quiet, too difficult, were the words that De Bruyne has never forgotten. The phrase, "it's who you are," stabbed De Bruyne right in the heart. At that moment, he knew that he was going to prove everyone wrong and make it to the very top.
And luckily for me, that the determination of saying like, I'm going to be in the first team in this year, in these 2 months, changed my whole Yeah, it changed my whole career for the good.
On the 9th of May 2009, De Bruyne made his first team debut for Henk. The following season, he established himself in the first team, scoring his first goal for the club in February of 2010.
Once I became to start training with the first team a couple of times, you're like, I've got a shot here, and then it just went so quick. In a couple of months, I was like a full first-time player, and then just kind of a fire to, be competitive.
In 2011, De Bruyne got 5 goals and 16 assists as Henk were crowned Belgian champions for the 3rd time. The next season, he continued his good performances, getting 8 goals and 15 assists. He really has always been the embodiment of the "how can I assist you" meme. The world was now beginning to take notice of his talents, so much so that even his family tried to enter back into his life. But for Kevin, that chapter of his life was closed.
There, but starting to go to the first team, and I just said at that time, I'm like, you don't want me, I don't care. I don't care about you guys anymore.
He was now in the lonely chapter.
I come from training like 9:30. Still have to eat, still have to study. Everybody's already in the room because they have to. So I didn't see anybody. I went to school, went to football.
He was alone, but in the process of building something.
I would say the first 2 years in Genk were probably the loneliest years I will ever have, because on the one side I lost everybody, and on the other side I'm trying to build something.
Kevin, first of all, welcome to Chelsea. How does it feel to finally be here?
Yeah, it feels great.
When he signed for Chelsea, it eased the pains that he had gone through. It was his dream coming true, and his hard work was being rewarded. Despite featuring for Chelsea in their preseason tour, he was sent out on loan to Werder Bremen for the 2012-2013 season.
I signed for Chelsea knowing that I would be loaned out the first year, and if I do really well, we'll see what happens. I did a pre-season, went to Werder Bremen.
The Blues felt that he was still raw and could use some extra first-team development. He hit the ground running in Germany, scoring his first goal in September. He continued his good form into the next game, scoring against Stuttgart.
De Bruyne!
Then in November, he scored the winner against Fortuna Düsseldorf, despite the fact that Werder Bremen were down to 10 men. De Bruyne ended the season with 10 goals and 9 assists, a very successful loan spell. Better stats than Mr. I'll do it 10 times more, Vinny. Now, there were actually reports at this time that De Bruyne was going to stay in Germany for another season with either Dortmund or Leverkusen.
And then in the summer was a little bit of tussle up. I could have went Dortmund, with Klopp at the time, or stay.
But the incoming manager, Mourinho, stated that De Bruyne was a part of his plans for the future.
Jose wanted me to stay.
And Kevin should go on loan to a German club. And I told the club, no, I don't want him on loan, I want him with me.
But just when it seemed like De Bruyne was beginning to make it to the top, things came crashing down. De Bruyne had joined Chelsea to be in the starting 11, yet immediately he was placed on the bench. He only made 3 appearances before eventually being dropped by Jose Mourinho, the man who had claimed he had a plan for the Ginger Maestro.
We played European Super Cup in Prague against Bayern, and he didn't play that game. The next day, he wants to leave. He was on the bench. Kevin, he played some minutes, and was not enough for him.
Despite his assist against Hull City, Mourinho still wasn't impressed.
Not an easy kid, in the sense of not so easy to go inside of him, not so easy to communicate. A kid with, everything very clear on his brain, and very difficult to change.
What made the situation even worse was Mourinho publicly said that he didn't like the way De Bruyne played in matches and in training.
Kevin De Bruyne wasn't the best trainer back then. He wasn't the best trainer. He was somebody that, he comes to training, probably just because he wasn't playing that much. He was always head down. He was always angry. He was stubborn. He was like, he was like a kid who came to the playground and nobody wants to play with him.
Now keep in mind, during this period, Chelsea had a stacked team. De Bruyne had to compete with the likes of Mata, Hazard, and Oscar to get minutes.
Was you looking at Chelsea's team and go, I should be in there. I should be playing at that point?
I had the confidence. I know there's a lot of good players there, and it was a top team.
Oscar specifically was someone who really fit Mourinho's style, an attacking midfielder with an unlimited defensive work rate. People forget how good this guy was, because he went to China of all places when he was in his prime. This man was ahead of the curve, bro. He was chasing the bag long before the Saudi money. This was probably the most difficult part of De Bruyne's career. Mourinho claims that he wanted De Bruyne to stay, to develop slowly.
But sometimes kids They do decisions like that because they cannot wait. They do decisions like that because they don't have the patience to be calm and to wait for the right moment.
Now, De Bruyne's impatience was actually beneficial to his career. Having experienced rejection before at such a young age, he knew nobody was coming to save him. There was no point in him sitting on the bench hoping that he would get some minutes. He had to take control of his own life and persevere, just like he did at Hank.
And then I just said, like, for me it's better to go. I wanna play football.
On January 18, 2014, Wolfsburg signed De Bruyne for a fee of £18 million, a fee that would come to be seen as one of the biggest bargains in football history. It's like the guy who bought $1 of Bitcoin decades ago. At the time though, there was a lot of pressure on De Bruyne's shoulders.
There was quite a lot of pressure. I think it was like the highest signing for them. I knew the sporting director because he took me to Bremen the year before and he switched.
In just half the season, De Bruyne picked up 3 goals and 7 assists in all competitions. The next year, with a full preseason, De Bruyne showed just how big of a mistake Chelsea had made in getting rid of him. He scored his first goal of the season with a volley from outside the box to salvage a draw against Lille in the Europa League. Later that month, he scored twice against Krasnodar as Wolfsburg secured their first win in the competition. Then in January, he shone on the biggest stage, with everyone watching. He scored 2 goals as Wolfsburg shocked the world by defeating Bayern Munich, who hadn't lost a game before that since April of 2014.
De Bruyne, onside, half the field to himself. Kevin De Bruyne, 3-0 Wolfsburg. The champions are crumbling.
Legs here between Dante and De Bruyne, which De Bruyne has won. Oh, and he finds the target again. His second of the game.
Then in March, the Belgian got 3 assists as Wolfsburg defeated his former club Werder Bremen 5-3. He even scored in the 2015 DFB Pokal final, ruining Klopp's last game in charge of Borussia Dortmund. How funny is that? KDB was haunting Klopp in Germany, and then both of them moved to England, and KDB still haunted him there. On Wolfsburg, we were watching a superstar in the making. De Bruyne ended the league season with 16 goals and 27 assists as Wolfsburg finished second in the Bundesliga. He had shattered the Bundesliga assist record and made Bas Dost look like the greatest striker to ever play football. Not saying Dost is a bad striker by any means, but in that season De Bruyne made him look like Van Basten. There is a reason why the Belgian was named the 2015 Germany Footballer of the Year.
For Wolfsburg to be second, win the cup, that never happened in their history, and then win the Super Cup against Bayern, who was like on the pep, and they win everything anyway, and we did really, really well.
With such a standout season, Manchester City came calling. It was time to return to England.
Huge breaking news is emanating from Manchester City. In the last few moments, they have finally wrapped up the deal to bring Kevin De Bruyne to the Premier League, back to the Premier League.
It represents the biggest transfer of the summer so far.
Kevin, welcome to Manchester City. The deal has finally gone through. How are you feeling?
Now at this time, Manchester City were good, but not at their peak yet. They had won 2 Premier League titles, but their true dominance had not started yet. De Bruyne was signed for a record fee of €75 million, the second most expensive transfer in British football history at the time, behind Angel Di Maria's move to Manchester United. As you can imagine, many of the oi bruvs in England were skeptical of this signing.
You look at the amount of money they're paying for this boy, it's just absolutely bonkers.
I just, there's players you see and you think, yeah, I just don't see this. I don't see £50-odd million for this player. I really do not see it at all.
While he had absolutely dominated the Bundesliga with Wolfsburg, there were still questions on whether he could maintain his form at the Premier League level.
You get people in the media even saying, oh, how can they spend so much money on a young kid who hasn't done well in the Premier League already, had one good season in Germany, etc.
Wolfsburg are a good team, they got into the Champions League, but come on.
Many still saw him as a Premier League reject after he failed at Chelsea.
I didn't think he'd done it at Chelsea. I don't think he got loads of chances, but he didn't look part of the Chelsea way at the time, Jeff.
But he pretty much silenced most critics in his first season. He got 16 goals and 13 assists, showing up in massive moments. He scored the winner against Sevilla in the Champions League to take City within 1 point of group leaders Juventus. In December, he scored a brace against Hull City to send Manchester City into the semi-finals of the League Cup. In the semi-finals, he scored against Everton. He then put together 2 massive performances against PSG in the Champions League quarterfinals. Now, to give you guys some context, the Champions League was an area that Manchester City really struggled in. Despite the amount of success they had achieved achieved domestically, they could never continue their good form into Europe. That season's Champions League campaign was even more important because they were doing horribly in the league. This was the season that Leicester became champions, and Manchester City, these guys were 4th. When you understand the situation and the desperation City faced, it makes you realize how clutch De Bruyne's performance was. In the first leg at the Parc des Princes, KDB scored the opening goal in a match that ended 2-2. This is the type of finish you expect from a big money signing. Nowadays, teams spend this much money to get a wrestler up front. In the second leg, De Bruyne stepped up his game even more. He scored a beautiful goal at a time that City needed it the most. That goal proved to be enough for the win, and Manchester City had made it to their first Champions League semi-finals in their club's history, beating the French champions, a star-studded PSG team with Cavani, Zlatan, and Di Maria. It was the shining point in a hectic season. That goal also reminded people that De Bruyne was something special. He had shown up not just once, but twice on the biggest stage for City.
I think he's the best midfield player in the world at this minute in time.
Yeah.
You know,
would you pay to watch him now?
Of course.
De Bruyne continued his good form into the 2017 season. De Bruyne's ability to be good with both feet is very unique, and part of what makes him better than most players. He is able to make things happen from certain angles because he doesn't have a preferred foot. Just a few days later, he put on another man of the match performance, this time against Bournemouth, being involved in all 4 goals. De Bruyne had 21 assists in all competitions that season, to go along with 6 goals. Although City ended up finishing in 3rd, we were witnessing how good Kevin De Bruyne is. At this point, just purely off the eye test, it was obvious that KDB was becoming the best in the world. The chances he was creating, the goals he was scoring, there weren't many midfielders that were better than him.
Kevin is one of the best players I ever seen in my life.
The issue is, people do not rate someone until he has team trophies. It's unfair. The media will never consider you the best until you have won something. De Bruyne had gotten 21 assists, something that Gerrard and Lampard had never done, yet it seemed to not matter unless he was seen lifting a trophy. Fortunately, the 2017-2018 season was the turning point for Manchester City. The season started off well, with De Bruyne setting up both Aguero and Jesus when City spanked Liverpool. He was showing his full range of abilities. Long pass, short pass, crossing, whatever you need, De Bruyne does it at the highest level possible.
And his performance today is no words. I don't have no words to describe what he has done with the ball, how many assists, how many swift play. All the time he was the game on his head.
In the next game week, De Bruyne assisted Aguero again, opening up the scoring against Watford. Their connection continued into the game against Newcastle as well, where De Bruyne assisted one of Aguero's 3 goals. Imagine if De Bruyne had played with a prime Aguero his whole career. The damage these two could have done. While his assist numbers were crazy, De Bruyne had no issue scoring either. His first Premier League goal of the season was symbolic. He scored the only goal of the game to beat his former club Chelsea. The goal itself was phenomenal. Classic De Bruyne. Ball at his feet, little bit of space, outside the box, bam, with his left foot. I'm bricked up just watching it back again. But what was even more satisfying than the goal was the silence of the fans at Stamford Bridge, who realized that the guy they sold for nothing just destroyed them at their own stadium.
Once the Chelsea blue, now giving Chelsea the blues.
De Bruyne continued scoring bangers just a few weeks later against Swansea.
There's De Bruyne! A coruscating rocket of a shot!
A rocket of a strike from 30 yards out into the top corner. What do you guys think is more powerful? De Bruyne's shots or Lizzo when she's trying to sit on someone? City's win against Swansea extended their win streak to 15 games. They were cruising this season. Not only was De Bruyne scoring, but he was scoring when City needed it the most. He scored in a 2-1 win over Bristol City in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-finals, then scored the winning goal in the second leg to send City to the final. This was his chance, an opportunity to finally get City some silverware. In a dominant 3-0 win, City beat Arsenal, the first trophy under Pep Guardiola, and the first for Kevin De Bruyne. What a shocker, Arsenal losing in a final. But this was only the beginning. City also ended up winning the Premier League. Now, not only did they win it, but they did it while getting 100 points. And they achieved that on the last match day, thanks to Kevin De Bruyne, who assisted Jesus for the winning goal against Southampton. Another man of the match for KDB. I mean, this guy made Gabriel Jesus look like a clinical striker. If that's not enough to suggest that he's the greatest midfielder the Premier League has ever seen, I don't know what will.
I just try and create as much as possible and just get my I would say my teammates in a position that they can excel in, you know.
With City finally winning a title, the individual awards began to come in quick and fast for De Bruyne. For his 16 assists in the Premier League, De Bruyne won the Premier League Playmaker of the Season award. He was also selected in the PFA Team of the Year and was also voted as Manchester City's Player of the Season.
Well, he's a genius. I think he made City win today. He made the City games a bit easier, a lot easier even.
People were finally realizing how good Ed Sheeran truly was.
Kevin De Bruyne has taken a lot of the plaudits this season for City, and deservedly so, in your opinion.
Yeah, he's having one hell of a season. He looks so comfortable, very, very gifted.
We are so proud. We are so proud and so happy he is with us.
But then, De Bruyne's career went downhill from here. The 2018-2019 season is, in my opinion, the season that has damaged De Bruyne's reputation a bit. He was injured pretty much the entire season. He only played 19 games in the Premier League and only 4 games in the Champions League. He kept getting different injuries, from hamstring issues to muscular failures to torn knee ligaments. It was very difficult for him to be able to string together games in order to get his consistency back. He did have one bright moment, coming on as a sub in the FA Cup final against Watford, scoring the 3rd goal and assisting 2 more. He was even named man of the match. But the problem was that while De Bruyne had a below average season for his standards, City as a team were flying. They had won the first ever domestic treble in English men's football, winning the league, FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup all in the same season.
Kevin, 4 trophies, every single English trophy won in one season. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously.
With them playing so well without De Bruyne, it made his role in their previous success look less important. Now, there's no doubt that City was a good side without De Bruyne, but anybody who watched them would tell you they got to another level when KDB was playing. But for some, the success of the team without KDB took away from how good the Belgian midfielder was. Liverpool fans, for example, would make the argument that if Gerrard was ever out for an entire season, Liverpool would massively struggle. Many Chelsea fans were trying to push the same argument for Lampard. With people truly thinking that Manchester City was carrying De Bruyne, he came back with something to prove in the 2020 season. Statistically speaking, it was one of his best ever individual seasons. 16 goals and 23 assists in all competitions. 13 of the goals and 20 of the assists coming in the Premier League. He became the first player in history to reach 20 assists in a single season in 2 of Europe's top 5 leagues, having now done it in the Premier League and the Bundesliga. De Bruyne getting 20 assists meant that he tied Thierry Henry for most assists in a Premier League season. This of course helped him win his 2nd Playmaker of the Season award. He had also created 104 chances from open play, which is the most created by any player in Europe since 2006. This is what I mean when I say that he could have had even better stats had he been playing with a traditional number 9 throughout his entire City career. Like Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus are good players, but De Bruyne created so many chances for them that it made them look a lot better than what they were. Like at one point, Sterling was putting up Messi and Ronaldo-esque numbers. And the funny part is, if he was more clinical, he could have had even better numbers. Cause at this point in Pep's project, Aguero was no longer playing, and City were using a false 9 system. But no matter the system, De Bruyne performed.
He can make absolutely everything. Everything.
That's why he was awarded the Premier League Player of the Season and named once again in the PFA Team of the Year. He also won the PFA Player of the Year award, becoming the first ever Manchester City player to win it. He had come a long way from being labeled a Chelsea reject. The next season though ended up being a bittersweet one for the Belgian. He got 10 goals and 18 assists in all competitions and was named the PFA Players Player of the Year, as Manchester City had won the league by a landslide. At this point, they had absolutely raw-dogged England when it came to domestic success. Like, they were spanking everyone. But what they really wanted was to be European champions. City's goal was the Champions League, and that year, they had achieved the impossible. Manchester City were in the final of the competition. De Bruyne had played a big part in the journey, picking up 3 goals and 4 assists in the competition. In fact, he had scored in every round of the knockout stages going into that final. But they had a big challenge in front of them: Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea.
Well, blue is the colour in Porto this evening.
the UEFA Champions League final.
It was a tough game. City were unable to break Chelsea down, and De Bruyne had not really been that involved. Then, the worst thing possible happened. Rudiger flew into De Bruyne with his shoulder, laying him flat on the ground. Classic Rudiger, but he thought he was at WrestleMania. De Bruyne was on the ground for what seemed like hours. When he finally got up, his left eye was swollen as if he had just been in a boxing match. It was obvious he could no longer continue, and was subbed off.
Such a sad end to the season, to the night for Kevin De Bruyne.
All he could do now was watch from the sidelines as his team would go on to lose 1-0 to Chelsea. They had come so close, but yet still so far. The greats had all tasted European glory. Gerrard with Liverpool on that iconic night in Istanbul, Frank Lampard in Munich. De Bruyne had not. The criticism grew louder in the 2021-2022 season. De Bruyne, as usual, dominated in the Premier League. 15 goals and 8 assists as City became champions once again.
De Bruyne back post! It's the title winner! Absolutely extraordinary!
But at this point, people were numb to how good he was domestically. They wanted to see team success in Europe. What's funny is that Kevin De Bruyne provided it. In the quarterfinals, he scored against Atletico Madrid in the first leg, a goal that ended up being the winner. Then in the first leg of the semifinals, he put together yet another masterclass against the European giants Real Madrid. A goal and assist as City won the first leg 4-3. But then of course City crumbled in the second leg. A disastrous collapse at the Bernabeu. It was harder to lose than to win the fixture at that point. But of course, this only increased the criticism around Kevin De Bruyne. How could he be an all-time great if he can't lead his team to Champions League glory? If he's so good, how come the team keeps falling short? These were the silly narratives that were going around at that time. I'm not sure how anybody could watch De Bruyne's performance in that first leg and blame him as the sole reason that the entire team decided to crumble in the last few minutes. I don't know how you can look at his assist against Aston Villa in the final match day of the Premier League, the assist that led to the goal that crowned City champions, and think he's not good enough because he hadn't won a Champions League. Well, thankfully, that stupid narrative was put to rest in the 2022-2023 season. De Bruyne was on a mission, and it helped that now he had a robot to pass to. From the get-go, it was obvious that the combination of De Bruyne and Haaland was a literal cheat code. I mean, De Bruyne got so many assists in the first few match weeks of the Premier League that I'm just gonna leave this screenshot here. There's not even a point of me showing every individual assist. Just look at these stats. One of De Bruyne's most iconic performances came when he scored a brace and provided an assist in City's 4-1 win over Arsenal, which ended up shattering any hopes the Gunners had of winning the league. In both fixtures against Arsenal that season, De Bruyne dunked on them. Watching it happen in real time, I felt bad. Arsenal fans were so optimistic, they were so happy. Then De Bruyne came in, bent them over, and well, you know the rest. It was a statement performance, a reminder of who owned the Premier League. In the Champions League, he was City's savior once more, as he scored the equalizer against the defending European champions Real Madrid. I mean, to go to the Bernabeu and score a goal like this, how many midfielders are doing that? Scratch that, how many players are doing that?
Kevin De Bruyne sends City's fans into delirium.
Well, thanks to De Bruyne, City were back in another Champions League final. But unfortunately for KDB, it was another final filled with heartbreak.
More disappointment for Kevin De Bruyne in a UEFA Champions League final.
Just like the final in 2021, De Bruyne found himself injured. It was tough to watch. This guy had put together such a beautiful campaign, but now it seemed like deja vu. Another final, another setback. It was because of De Bruyne that City had even reached that position.
I did what I needed to do. I helped my team to the job and they finished this off, but it's still an annoying part where I say like I would love and just manage through a final. There's nothing I can do. I have a rupture of 10 centimeters in my hamstring. There's no chance to play.
Well, thanks to Rodri and the rest of the team, KDB's tears of sadness turned to tears of joy. What made that season so special is that not only did City win the Champions League after years of disappointing results, but they won the treble: Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League. It's an achievement that is the pinnacle of club football. At the end of the season, De Bruyne was nominated for the UEFA Men's Player of the Year award alongside Messi and his teammate Haaland. A lot of focus was on Haaland that season because of the goals and because he was a new signing, but there's an argument to be made that De Bruyne was the driving force for every goal Haaland was scoring. The next season might have been even crazier, with De Bruyne picking up 18 assists in all competitions as he won his 6th Premier League title. Keep in mind, by the way, he had missed half the season due to a hamstring injury. Not many many players could come back from injury and immediately get an assist as soon as they come off the bench? How many other midfielders can come in late in the second half when their team is trailing 2-1 and get a goal and assist in 24 minutes to get them the win?
Yeah, the quality told in the end. I thought the substitution of De Bruyne, obviously world-class player. He scored one, he's assisted one, and he's made the difference, really.
For pretty much every club in the Premier League, Kevin De Bruyne was their boogeyman. And now you can be the boogeyman too. Just pick up your own Kevin De Bruyne Manchester City jersey from buygamejerseys.com. Link in the description. Use code PETTALKS for a discount. By every single metric, Kevin De Bruyne is an all-timer.
He's a cheat code, isn't he, Jamie?
He's been the best player in the Premier League for the last 4 or 5 years since he's, virtually since he came back from Germany and signed for Manchester City.
The consistency, the efficiency, the number of individual awards, combine that with the fact that City have made the Premier League look like a farmers league, there is no doubt in my mind that Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best players we have ever seen. His vision and precision turned the footballing pitch into a canvas. He expressed himself through every pass, every shot, every decision. What Gerrard did for Liverpool, what Lampard did for Chelsea, De Bruyne did for Manchester City. We didn't just watch a footballer, we watched an artist. Now, while he's no longer going to be on Manchester City, there's another player that is going to try and match this legacy. The Norwegian robot is now the face of Manchester City. To see how good him and Kevin De Bruyne were, you gotta check out this video right here.